Hello, everyone. I'm Cliff Boyer, and this is Humanities 104 Career Enhancement. This class is designed to address all of the things that you need to think about as you prepare for your career, apart from all of the medical information and skills that you'll be learning as well. This is the professional end of your profession and all the things you need to do to take care of your career. Some of you joined me on the Zoom meeting, and that was great. It was great to meet some of you and to have that conversation. I am going to be covering much of the same information that I shared with you at that meeting. But in addition, I'm going to have some extra details here, and I'm also going to talk about that PowerPoint on professionalism in week one. So, first of all, let me just introduce myself. I've been at IoT for 6 years now. I am the Director of Student Services, which means that I provide resources and support to students who are facing challenges in completing their work at school. So keep that in mind. If anything comes up that's preventing you from achieving what you want to accomplish here at IoT, then let me know, and we can start working to make sure that we can support you through that process. Okay? Apart from that, before I came to IoT, I've been in education as a teacher, a college writing instructor at U of O and Clackamas Community College in Chemeketa. Additionally, my work as a business manager was for over 20 years. I've done countless interviews. I've read thousands of resumes. So I do bring some experience to this, and I hope to be able to share with you some suggestions so that you can make yourself more marketable to get that job that you really want. So, along those lines, I also want to make a quick announcement. I have added an extra Zoom tutoring meeting each week for our evening students. So, Monday at 4 o'clock, I will be available for a free Zoom tutoring hour, and then Tuesday at 10 o'clock, as we did this week. And that new schedule will take effect next week, obviously. Uh, You can come to any of the Zoom meetings. It doesn't matter if you're an evening or a day student. If it's more convenient for you to check in with me at 4 o'clock, then that's great. Also, I want to emphasize these meetings are not mandatory. However, I encourage you to visit with me and connect with me. I can answer any questions you have. We can go over some of the material, etc. So, let me know if you have any questions about the Zoom meetings, and I will be sending out an email announcing this video, and I'll include that information again as far as how you can access the Zoom meetings with the meeting ID and password. Now, I want to take a quick look at the syllabus, but first I also wanted to talk about attendance because that is so vitally important, and it's going to be an important factor in your success at IoT. Attendance for class is dependent on completing your homework on time. If you complete your homework that is due that week, you will be marked present. If you do not complete the homework that is due that week, you will be marked absent. And please take note, it is our policy not to accept late assignments. So you want to plan ahead and be careful to make sure that you meet all of your deadlines. If you need some help getting organized or thinking about how to work through that, please let me know and I'm happy to work with you on that. All materials for this class are in my IoT under Humanities 104, and they're divided by each week. There is no textbook for this class, but reading assignments you will also find in my IoT, such as the PowerPoint on professionalism that I'm going to review with you today. All homework is due Thursday morning at 10 a.m., and I will hold that to a strict account. So please make sure you get your work in on time. With the distance and hybrid learning, it's very difficult to manage everything, as you probably are already beginning to figure out. And so you want to stay as organized as possible. And that goes for me too. It's a lot to juggle, and I need to stay organized as well. So we really need to adhere to these deadlines. Now, in each of these video lectures, I am going to provide a prompt or a question, and I'm asking you to send me an email answering that prompt or question, just so that I know that you've seen the video and I can give you credit for having watched it. Today, the question is, how would you define professionalism? And we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But if you can send me a short email with just 3 or 4 sentences telling me in your own words what you think professionalism is, especially as it pertains to nursing, then that will be great. Okay? So let's get started. It would be helpful if you have a copy of the syllabus and the outline in front of you and that PowerPoint, but if you don't, no worries. I'm just going to walk you through it real quickly. I wanted to emphasize on the syllabus the course objectives. These are the things that we are going to be working on. These are the things that it is expected you will have mastered by the time you finish this term. So you're going to be filling out a professional master application. It's a generic application, but it will encapsulate and capture all of your information. And in the future, you would be able to use that as a reference to quickly fill out other applications. You are going to develop and write a professional resume. You're going to participate in a mock interview. You will develop and enhance the soft skills needed in a professional environment. And more conversation about soft skills next week. Ensure online profiles, email and social media, are representative of the professional standards at IoT and the medical community. And that's something we're going to touch on later today. Recognize the importance of the first 10 seconds before and during an interview and how to use nonverbal communication effectively and successfully. Understand the efficacy of using the PAR method during an interview: problem, action, result. I reviewed that a little bit yesterday, and as we go through the outline, I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Ask smart questions and provide professional follow-up after your interview, and then you'll be able to understand and compose an APA formatted paper on critical thinking. And that last objective is really important. You might be asking yourself, I'm in a class on career enhancement. Why would I want to write a research paper? Well, first of all, you are choosing a field where your education is a lifelong endeavor. You will be attending conferences, you will be reading peer-reviewed journals and articles that will update you on new information in your field, and you may be called upon to actually write or provide that kind of information yourself. Also, you need to be more aware of professional business communication. So that ties in with some of the letters you'll be writing as well as the research paper. And the topic of the research paper is critical thinking and examining what is critical thinking and how does that relate to you in your career as a student and as a prospective nurse. So that I don't think I need to explain. Critical thinking is going to be an elemental fact of your life from now on as you take in information and determine what your patients need and how to best serve them. So the syllabus also gives you some basic information. There is a mention of ATI, and that was a testing program that we've had here at IoT. I am not going to include it in the class this term, so you don't have to worry about that at all. There's also a grading scale that explains how your grades are factored, and if you have any questions about that, please just let me know. I'd like to move on to the outline now. And the outline is your Bible. This will get you through the term. It tells you what is due when and will be your guidepost to making sure that you meet all of your deadlines in a timely manner. So, and I'm just checking, I want to make sure I've caught everything. Yeah, there we go. So, this week we're dealing with the course introduction, and that's what we're doing right now. And what I'd like to talk to you about, first of all, as you look at this outline, there are 3 major projects that you are responsible for in this class. And everything we do in this class is leading you up to that point of completing each of those 3 projects. These 3 projects are the critical research, or the research paper on critical thinking, your portfolio, which will include your professional resume, cover letter, thank you letter, references, and then you will also be filling out that application. And then the final thing that you will be working towards, the final project, is a mock interview. And that's where we will be conducting interviews. I will be conducting interviews with you. And hopefully we will have prepared you so that you will just knock it out of the park when you do that. Some of you have had a lot of experience with resumes and interviews. Some of you have had almost none. So this is going to try and address all of those needs for all of you. So this week we are going to be talking about the course Introduction and Professionalism. Next week, we're going to be talking about hard versus soft skills. Hard skills are those skills that you're going to be learning in lab and clinicals, things like blood draws, injections, how to take a blood pressure. All of those kinds of things are hard skills. Soft skills are those more intangible interrelational skills. Your emotional intelligence, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Basically, how well do you interact with people, and how professional are you, etc. We're also going to be talking about integrity, and to me, that is probably the most important soft skill anyone can possess. I read recently a report that uh, people believe, I guess, as much as 80% of people surveyed believe that nurses are one of the most trustworthy professions in the country. So that's a lot of responsibility. You need a lot of integrity, and you need to be very honest and upright and forthright with your patients and with your coworkers. And we're going to talk more about that next week. I'm also going to talk about APA formatting next week. That's American Psychological Association formatting. That's how you will format your paper. There are all kinds of materials in week two to serve as guides and references for you. And we will go through that material next week in my next interview. And I can also review that with you in the Zoom tutoring hours if you need that further assistance. But I'm basically going to lay out how you want to address this paper and how you want to approach it and complete that assignment. Week three, we're going to start talking about your resume, cover letter, and job application. Rough drafts for that are due week four. For your resume, cover letter, and job application, you'll have an opportunity to turn in rough drafts. I will read them and then email you some suggestions for revision if necessary so that you can polish those off and make them your best work for your final portfolio. I'll also talk about critical thinking in general and researching and picking up your secondary sources for your paper, etc. Now, week five, the rough draft, you've got 5 weeks now, the rough draft of your critical thinking research paper is due that Thursday. So, what will happen is I'll read through your rough drafts, and again, I will send you suggestions for how you can revise your paper to make it even better and more polished and refined. On week six, we're going to talk some more about skills and revisit hard skills versus soft skills. And I'm going to ask you to focus personally on what are your three greatest strengths and what are three weaknesses. And I hate that word. I much prefer what do you consider three areas of opportunity where you can do some improvement? That's going to be a short written assignment that you will be turning in week six. There is no lecture that week. You've got midterms and you're going to have enough on your hands. So we're going to go a little bit lighter in this class that week. Week seven, we're going to talk about professionalism again, but this time on the internet. And that week, your rough draft for your references, your professional references, and the thank you letter are due. And I want to emphasize there are templates for much of this work in my IoT. So when you go into fill out, let's say, the thank you letter, you're going to find a template where if you just highlight and click on a field, you can fill in that information and it basically becomes paint by numbers. All you're going to do is provide the information in each of the appropriate fields. And if you have any questions on that, again, please let me know. Finally, in week eight, we're going to really buckle down and concentrate on the mock interviews. We're going to talk about the art of the interview. And this is where we'll talk about PAR. That stands for problem, action, result. One thing you want to do to be effective in an interview is always come armed with some really tangible examples that you can use to illustrate your points and to demonstrate those qualities in yourself. So let's say, for instance, that you said, well, I'm very organized. For example, our department was a mess after we had this great big problem, and I formed a committee and we did this, that, and the other thing, and we got everything organized again. Right away, you've presented a problem, the action you took, and the result. And this is really an effective way to deal with when you're asked, so what are your weaknesses? Rather than just saying, well, I procrastinate all the time, I do this, I do that. I have a problem with procrastination, but this is what I'm doing to deal with it. That way you have the problem, but you're also presenting a solution. And that is going to be highly effective in your interview. Finally, week 9, your final portfolio will be due. You'll basically be sending in your final drafts for your resume, cover letter, references, and thank you letter. And that will comprise your portfolio. I should say, too, all homework assignments need to be uploaded into my IoT. It will come to me in all of the student files, and then I will be able to review your homework. This is the easiest way for us to track all of the work that's coming in. So please try to adhere to this as much as possible. Occasionally, a student may have a problem uploading some assignments, and I will work with you if that comes up, and we will figure out a solution. But otherwise, be prepared to upload all of your homework assignments in my IoT, and that's where I access them and review them. In week 10, we will conduct those mock interviews. And the way I did this the last term and the last couple of terms is we did it on Zoom. And I usually had 3 or 4 students, and we did a group interview. I have 2 very large classes this term. So I'm going to be looking early on as to how we can best schedule that. I don't want the interviews to go into week 11 because that's your finals week and you've got enough going on. So I will have more information later in the term regarding the mock interviews. I also want to add that I have a few reference materials. None of this is homework that you need to turn in, but it's going to be helpful information. There's going to be probably, there may very well be a YouTube video or 2 that I will provide links for. But for sure, there are going to be some materials that will help you to prepare for your interview. Sample interview questions, things for you to think about. I have not been able to scan that here at home. So when I get back on campus, whenever that is, I will scan that in and put that into my IoT in the later weeks. It's not going to come up anytime in the next couple of weeks, so don't worry about that, and I will keep you updated. I just didn't have the material to be able to put it all in together this week. So that's the outline, and I hope that answers most of your questions. As I've been saying, please feel free to email me anytime and make me your partner. If you have any questions or concerns, if you need clarification on assignments, whatever it might be, just let me know. And I'm more than happy to work with you on that. And my biggest goal this term is to make sure that every one of you are successful in this class and that you pass with flying colors as professional prospective nurses. Now, with that in mind, I'd like to start talking about professionalism and the PowerPoint that you would find in week 1 in my IoT. The most important thing to remember, and especially as you go out into clinicals, you start looking for work, etc., you are representing IoT. And we have a good reputation in our community and in the medical community, and we want to keep that. We're able to provide a lot of experiences and clinical experiences for our nurses, apart from COVID and the wildfires. On an ordinary basis, we are able to provide a lot of valuable experience and opportunities to you, and that is because of our reputation. We constantly get feedback from folks in our clinical sites and externship sites that our students are often the best prepared and the most professional, and we want to keep that up. Not only that, though, you also represent the facility in which you work. So whatever clinic or facility you're working in, you represent them too, and they are going to depend on you to be a professional. And most importantly, and finally, you represent yourself. And I'm going to ask you this question. How do you know when someone is professional? I think we all know that. We meet someone, we see someone walking down the street, and right away, you know, wow, that woman is very professional. What is it that clues you into that? What qualities do you see that provide you with that determination? How do we convey that we are professionals? I have a suggestion. Google professionalism in nursing, as I just did a little bit ago, and you'll be amazed at how much information is out there just on the idea of professionalism in nursing. So it might be worthwhile to take some time and just scan through that a little bit and see what they might say. And it really reveals how important that quality is in the profession, that is so prominent when you Google it. Turning to the PowerPoint, we start off with a couple of definitions. One is the right out of the dictionary, and that is the skill, good judgment, and polite behavior that is expected from a person who is trained to do a job well. Okay. I don't know that that conveys all the aspects of professionalism that we want to think about, but that's a good starting point. An alternate definition is also provided in your PowerPoint. The conduct, aims, or qualities that characterize or mark a profession or a professional person. You are entering the profession of nursing. And ever since Florence Nightingale, this has been an honored profession, a profession of caring and compassion and supportive help to people in need. You can be proud of that. And some of that pride in that profession and in the work that you do will help convey professionalism. So you want to think about grooming, dress, how you dress, and behavior in particular. How do those different facets convey professionalism? Your grooming and your dress reflect the communities that you serve. They reflect where you've gone to school. They reflect you yourself and how you respect yourself. Our manner and expressions can convey our compassion and the concern we have and the willingness we have to serve others. But why is professionalism so important? Well, you're going to find that answer if you Google nursing, professionalism in nursing. But just some hints here. Job hunting. When people are looking for a prospective employee, they're looking, especially in this profession, for a professional. And how you market yourself. So, what kind of email address do you have? Is it something crazy like I love crazy cats 95 at hotmail.com? No. It might include your name or an initial in your last name. Uh, some numbers, perhaps, just to specify you as a unique individual, but you want to keep this simple, direct, and so that you are easily identified by someone who wants to know who you are. If you have a crazy email address that only you know the secret code to, it's going to be difficult to identify you when they have a long list of prospective employees who are all applying for the job. Also, you want to look professional. If you have a crazy email, and we're going to talk about this later in the term, so I don't spend too much time on it. But if you have a crazy email address, it says so much about you. And I'm not saying don't have fun. And in your personal email, you can do whatever you want. But for your professional email, keep it professional. You're marketing yourself. And that's why your resume and the correspondence that we're going to be going through this term is so important so that you convey your ideas and your information as professionally as possible. You also want to be able to maintain your employment. In this state, we have at will employment. That means you can be let go for no reason whatsoever. In my business career, I have let go of people saying, thank you, your services are no longer required. That means that you want to make yourself as valuable an employee as possible. And the surest way to get there is to behave and to perform as professionally as possible at all times. Also, you want to get a promotion. You want to get pay raises. You want happy coworkers. You want your bosses and supervisors to be happy. You want your patients to be happy. So, how does a professional look? Remember, I was asking, so when you see someone who you think is professional, well, how do you know? Well, one way is by how they look, their personal hygiene. How clean are their teeth, hair, nails? Are there any scents? What kind of makeup are they wearing? Is it tons of makeup or just enough to enhance their appearance? Clothing. Is it job appropriate? Are they tidy? Are you modest? In other words, are you calling too much attention to yourself all the time? Accessories, keep them minimized. What is necessary? And in many clinical situations, you're going to find that you can't have any accessories. And there are some strict guidelines on dress and grooming. So you want to adhere to those and know those requirements inside out, and then adhere to them closely. So one aspect of being a professional is looking the part. Not only in how you dress and how you groom, but also how you present yourself. What is your posture like? How do you walk, sit? Do you sit tall, stand tall, or do you slouch and act like you're afraid to talk to someone? When you're talking to someone, do you face them face on and meet their eyes? Or are you kind of standing off to the side and just looking like you're not sure of yourself? How open are you? Are you open to hearing other people's ideas? Are you receptive to suggestions for doing things a different way? Do you fidget a lot? Fidgeting is always a sure sign of nervousness. And that's one thing that I kind of look for in interviews, to be honest. Um, I don't blame you if you're nervous in an interview. I would expect that. But how do you manage that? And that's something that an employer will see. And if you're constantly fidgeting in your seat while you're talking to them, they're going to be distracted and they're going to have some negative impressions. Eye contact, as I said, is vitally important. In some cultures, eye contact is discouraged. It's considered rude. But in our culture, it's a sign of confidence and trustworthiness. What is your manner like? Are you confident? Or, as I was saying before, are you kind of timid and shy? Now, if you are, that's fine. But then how can you manage that? Courtesy. Are you courteous with everyone? Are you interested in people other than yourself? Do you ask questions? Do you show genuine interest in them and their experience and what they can offer? Personality of a professional is also very important. It usually embodies a positive attitude. You want to avoid negative statements about yourself, previous employers, personal life, etc. Nobody wants to hear someone complain all the time. So, negativity is something also that a professional just will not tolerate. A smile goes a long way, especially in the profession that you've chosen. Sometimes when someone is down at their worst, a smile might be just enough to pick them up a little bit. And of course, enthusiasm is contagious. If you are sincerely and genuinely enthusiastic about what you're doing, people will notice. Character. And this is something we'll touch on next week with integrity. What are your moral qualities? What are the moral qualities of a professional? And do they hold themselves accountable? Or are they always constantly blaming someone else or saying, not my responsibility, not my job, I didn't do that? Or do you hold yourself accountable? And then finally, emotional intelligence, which is something that I had brought up earlier. Emotional intelligence, and again, in a stressful field such as the medical field, and in a situation where you are expected to provide a lot of compassion and thoughtfulness, emotional intelligence is key. And this is the ability to identify and manage one's own emotions. It also involves how well do you interact with and effectively and appropriately with other people's emotions. You get triggered and become reactive because someone is angry, and then does it escalate? Or are you able to manage that in a way that you can help to de escalate the situation and hopefully come to a good resolution that is appropriate for everyone? That requires emotional intelligence. And we'll probably be talking about that a lot this term as well. So that wraps up my comments on the PowerPoint on professionalism. Remember, I'm asking you to send me a quick email, and I would like these by um, let's say Monday. Okay, just so that I know that you've seen this interview, and by Monday I'll be working on the next lecture. So we don't want that to go too far. So if you can send me your emails by Monday with the answer to how would you define professionalism, I'll give you credit for having watched this exciting video. At any rate, I wish you all well and much luck this term. It's difficult with the wildfires and with COVID. We all have some big challenges ahead of us, and going to nursing school is a big challenge all by itself. So we are here to support you, and especially as the Director of Student Services and as your instructor, I want to support you. So please keep in touch with me, and I look forward to working with you all this term. Good luck.